Finally, we have a wide zoom lens with a wider aperture than f4. Don't mind me, I'm just taking a jab at Sony's audacity to keep charging the price that they charge for the 10-18. So let's talk about it.
Let's go!
The Tamron 11-20 f2.8 from strictly a videographer's perspective. Now, I've been using the Sony 10-18 for the past couple years, and there was never anything that could match its functionality. I've always had to compromise with manual focus lens for more bokeh and obviously makes the workflow slower. So after a whole decade, there's something worth mentioning that competes with the 10-18. I personally think that the 10-18 f4, although a good lens, is overpriced. $1,030 Canadian on Amazon at the moment versus $850 Canadian for the Tamron. To start off, the matte finish on the lens body 11-20 is way more aesthetic than the glossy one on the 10-18. Tamron's wider aperture allows me to have a bit more bokeh when I'm following my subject, making my footage look more cinematic. For indoor shots, there's gonna be times when I can get away with using natural light from the windows if need be. Plus, this lens sharpness is equivalent or really close to Sony's 10-18 in my opinion. You know, the downside to this is that there's no stabilization in the lens, that both produce great sharp footage and the autofocus are pretty close with each other. What I'm really here to talk about is whether or not the wider aperture is worth trading off stabilization for. I'm currently using the Sony a6500 that has built-in stabilization, and when doing wide shots, I'm usually on a gimbal, making it as sturdy as possible. So I can get pretty sturdy shots even before post. So if you have an E-mount body that doesn't have stabilization like the a6000 to the a6400, then you might want to consider investing in a gimbal. But now, is it really a cheaper lens then? Granted, ultra-wide shots are hard to detect micro jitters, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. The last thing you want is to export it into your software and realizing that every shot needs to be warp stabilized, taking up more time, slowing down the workflow. In the perspective of a videographer, the investment will be more than just the lens. It's a trickle effect for you to purchase stabilizing gear to compensate and make it work. Even if you're doing handheld shots, it would be beneficial for you to make the camera a bit heavier since the lens is not heavy when paired with the E-mount body. So I would only recommend this lens if you have the Sony a6500 or 6600 in your workflow. Crop frame cameras can always do better with the 2.8 aperture, especially if you do run and gun type shoots. I personally have experienced situations where f4 was just not bright enough. My name is Kian, and I'll see you in the next video.